Perfect. Joshua chapter 16 is where we're at today. My name is Frank, and you are on Reflections with, is it with or by? With and by Wakeji Kamore. We're in Joshua chapter 16. We are going through the book of Joshua. I'm taking us through the book of Joshua. We have come through the last 16 chapters, and we're in the part where now, if you understand the lay of the Bible, the children of Israel have conquered the nations they were meant to conquer, and we're in the part of the Bible where they are being allocated and allotted the pieces of land that belong to the different tribes of Israel. And today in chapter 16, it's Ephraim and Manasseh. Interestingly, Ephraim and Manasseh were not directly the tribes of Israel. They were not Jacob's sons. They were Jacob's grandsons born to Joseph. But if you remember, Jacob had almost like blessed them the same way he blessed his own children. If you go back to the book of Genesis, you see that happening there. And in verse 16 is chapter 16 is a very short chapter. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually go back to chapter 15 and read one verse, and then go to the end of chapter 16 and read one verse, and then we kind of tie those together to understand our takeout from chapter 16 today. So I'll read chapter 15 verse 63, which says, Judah could not dislodge the Jebusites who were living in Jerusalem. To this day, the Jebusites live there with the people of Judah. And then verse 16, chapter 16, the last verse says, and that's verse 10, they did not dislodge the Canaanites living in Gezer. To this day, the Canaanites live among the people of Ephraim, but are required to do forced labor. It's very important that we read those verses because they're kind of similar. Chapter 15, verse 63, they didn't manage to remove the Jebusites. And then in chapter 16, verse 10, they didn't manage to remove the Canaanites, and they lived there. Now, here's the thing that I wanted us to see from this, that even if in all the other places they were removing the tribes that lived there and causing them to move to other places or doing away with them, which was a really bloody affair. Here, by the way, what we see is that they left these two tribes, the Jebusites and the Canaanites, to live amongst them. Now, our lesson for today is actually not directly from the book of Joshua. It's a foreshadowing, because as you continue to read the rest of the chapters, or rather the rest of the books, and the story of the children of Israel continues to unfold, you will see the consequences of the tribes that the children of Israel allowed to live among them. You will see that what starts to happen when you read Judges and the First Kings, Second Kings, First Chronicles, Second Chronicles, when you continue to read the stories of the children of Israel and the progression therein, you start to see that the tribes that they allowed to live among them, for whatever reason, sometimes it was because they made their own deals with them, sometimes it's because they just didn't remove them, for whatever reason, you will start to see that these tribes that they allowed to live among them became an influence to them. They're the tribes that led them to worship idols. They're the tribes that led them to start adopting some methods and ways of doing things that were not their own. They're the tribes that led them to, even human sacrifices. At some point, they started to sacrifice their own children. And it's a serious foreshadowing. But today, it's so harmless to see that chapter 15 verse 63 and chapter 16 verse 10, it's so harmless to see that they just left the Canaanites and the Jebusites. But it will be shocking now when you come to read later and realize that these are the people who corrupted them and influenced them negatively. And I want to leave it at us thinking about this today, that what you don't deal with fully today will deal with you slowly in the future. If you have a chance to deal with something today, don't allow for that thing to remain there. And that thing could be some sort of compromise, it could be some sort of conflict, it could be some sort of sin, whatever you have been given an instruction to deal with today. Don't allow it to be, even if it looks harmless. Yeah, what you don't deal with fully today will deal with you slowly and progressively into your future. That's the thought that I wanted to plant in our minds today. That, you know, sometimes it just looks like such a harmless compromise, or it looks like such a harmless, these guys were harmless neighbors, and in any way, by the way, the children of Israel had defeated such huge fortified kingdoms and kings that it looked harmless to leave, you know, the Jebusites or the Canaanites or whoever. But these are the same tribes that led them far and far, far away from God in the days ahead. So I don't know what it is. I hope that today we can all just take a moment to reflect. What is it that is a compromise or a sin that looks so harmless today? And to you, it's like, this thing doesn't even... Listen, deal with it today conclusively. Or if you leave it there, what is going to happen is progressively it will start influencing you and distancing you from God. It will start taking you so far away that you get to a point where you're like, how did we get here? Can you imagine these children of Israel, as loved and cared for as they were by God, they got to a point where they were sacrificing their own children to get favor from gods that were gods of the people that they didn't deal with and push away from being near them. So that's the thing, the foreshadowing that we see from these two verses, 15:63 and 16:10. Deal conclusively with whatever you need to deal with in your life. Don't compromise. Don't think it's harmless. If it's a conflict and it's somebody you need to speak to, just make sure you deal with it, because if you don't, it will grow to become something else that you won't even understand the wedge and the gap that it can create between you and that person, between you and God. Deal with the compromises in your life today so that they don't end up downing you forever, because when you had a chance, you let them stay. I hope that gives you something to think about today. I pray and believe that God's word continues to speak to you and to inform your daily choices and the things that you need to do in your life. Have a great day. Remember to share this with somebody who needs to hear it. And remember to subscribe to this channel as well. Frank is my name. Wishing you a great day. Bye.